So week 2 of the Black Ops 6 reveals are rolling in as of today, and we got a bit more information on a few things that are both pretty cool to hear, pun intended, but also a few things I'm curious to see how they work in practicality come launch and beyond. On top of that, we also learned a bit about a few more minor details that not everyone can interact with right now, but are something you may be able to get use out of in the future. So today we're breaking it all down and what you need to know, so drop your thoughts as we go along, drop a like if you enjoy the video, and make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all things Black Ops 6. Again, we're pushing towards 600,000 subscribers, so if you'd like to join us on that lofty goal of attempting to get there either by launch or at least closing the gap by then, and perhaps you're part of that nearly 75% of viewers not subscribed, I'd love to have you in the community. For now though, let's get into it. Firstly, let's start out with the more minor things here at this. The bigger of the two announcements today was that preloads are currently available on Bnet, Battle.net, the Activision Blizzard launcher. It's about 57 gigabytes worth of data, and it seems to only be available right now on Bnet, and currently might be the furthest out that we've ever seen a preload available for a COD launch, if I'm not mistaken. Still 11 days to go, 10 perhaps depending on when you watch this video versus when it's published in other time zones around the world. Definitely nice to have on hand though, so you can jump right into Black Ops 6 on day one, though noticeably this does not have zombies included in the Black Ops 6 content packs. So I'd imagine there's another one of those packs that is downloadable closer to launch, but just know that as of right now, that 57 gigabytes will be including a bit more for the whole experience once we get closer to launch. Now, my only concern with this here is that it's shared through the COD HQ, meaning that in theory, this is very likely to be data mined, producing both campaign and multiplayer leaks if you care about any of that stuff. So weapons, camos, all that kind of stuff might be exciting to hear about, but also if you want to avoid any critical story spoilers, that's something that campaign details, cutscenes, endings might leak as a result of this as well. So bear that in mind, that if you're deep in touch with COD media, it might be best to stay off some places to avoid some spoilers. But anyways, beyond that, we also learned today that Xbox Cloud Gaming is a thing with Black Ops 6, where at launch, Game Pass Ultimate members can use Xbox Cloud Gaming to stream on select Samsung TV, Amazon Fire TV, and MetaQuest devices to play Black Ops 6 on day one. So I'm curious to see how this will perform. Like, will there be any hardware limitations, any latency issues that come of this? I do remember seeing Digital Foundry showcased a few tests a couple of months back where it appeared to like double a latency that you'd have on console, but hey, the option's there if you are interested in that kind of stuff. Also, if you want to just see how convoluted some of these deals are that they're making in the gaming space and see how weirdly intertwined the industry is with itself, this allows an Activision Call of Duty title to be used on Xbox Cloud services because Xbox struck a deal with Ubisoft for the streaming rights of that. Like, very weird trail to follow there, right? But anyways, that leads us away from the smaller details and things announced today, and also now brings us to the bigger topic at large. Audio was very heavily stressed on in a blog post today, detailing a lot of things. The big talking points out of this was adaptive audio, spatial reverb, physics-based acoustics, sound prioritization, HRTF support, and asymmetrical hearing compensation. So what in the world do any of those things mean? Long stories short, let's give a brief rundown for this kind of stuff. Adaptive audio is kind of the umbrella of systems that they're talking about here at this, which is updates to the existing audio systems to give players information on directionality, distance, and threat levels so they can easily identify where a player can be coming from. This adaptive audio talking point is kind of, again, that top level for the more nerdy breakdown and intricate parts that we're about to get into. Spatial reverb is the first of that. So we've seen this type of thing in COD before, but spatial reverb is the way that sound will reverberate or bounce off of locations in-game. In the past, we've seen subtle distinctions with things in the environment. I still remember like one of the coolest presentations that I've seen was from Infinity Ward with Modern Warfare 2019. They had us in their studio, the theater room there, showcasing the different audio layers on Piccadilly in the square and in the subway tunnels, isolating things like the fire audio and how it echoed differently in the tunnel versus in the open air. They'd also isolate things like the pinging of the casings falling on the ground and more. So this kind of stuff has been around there. It's been progressively built out with each individual game since Modern Warfare 2019 at the very least, with each game having some sort of focus on spatial audio. Black Ops 6, as described, is working with Microsoft's Project Acoustic Systems to, as they say, push to new heights. This technology, in theory, is a great collaboration, just meshing two existing audio systems, COD audio engines, and the Microsoft toolsets to, in theory, give a better product. How that translates to game remains unseen, as we'll mention, but I want to share with you their examples because if you watch with a headset, you'll pick up on this absolutely, but you still might be able to tell the differences based off of like phone, TV, or monitor speakers with however you watch. But anyways, check these out.
Destination marked. Head for my waypoint. Setting rally point. Head for my waypoint. Destination marked.
So for brief elaboration, you'll notice the way the audio bounced off certain surfaces is different. Whether the player's voice carrying further out into the open versus bouncing off those long hallways of the underhang of Rewind. In that shop, it's a bit more muffled because you have more things that the audio is bouncing off of and then absorbing. And then things like the Footstep audio, the way the enemy player's audio approaches and then fills when it turns the corner is something you can audibly hear. So very, very noticeable, I think, especially when it comes to the Footstep audio. That was super loud, which we'll come back to in a second because there's more I want to discuss on that. But not to get too carried off topic, the next thing was physics-based acoustics. All of this is possible by the new systems of animating and generating 3D game audio. This is one of those peeks behind the curtains that I certainly really appreciate and love to see, as they gave animations and illustrations of how these systems work. The following of what you'll see on screen is a general map of the Biolab cave from the Zombies Terminus map, both a top-down view and a side view. These videos will illustrate the way the audio emits and then resonates off of certain surfaces, the time that it takes, how it reflects off of, and how it will interact with the world around it. Now, obviously, this is a bit exaggerated, as you won't see like a single shot resonate that long for 20 seconds or whatever in a zombies map. There are various number of factors that will dampen that audio and it will die down before, again, that 20-second mark or whatever. But the visualization and the tooling to see how that works, to see all these things bouncing off each other, really cool, I think, at least personally speaking for me. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. The other thing that was elaborated on here with this audio blog was sound prioritization. So obviously with so much being present, how much they're seemingly talking about how audio resonates in these levels, is it going to be something that's just information and sensory overload when you jump into a game? This is where it gets kind of interesting, and I'm wondering how this will work, if it will work as intended, or if there's something that will create some more problems with this or not. But it's mentioned that Black Ops 6 takes into account most important sounds to the player are emphasized, with a new priority system assigning a dynamic priority number to every single sound, which can be adjusted live in the entire mix. The sound of enemies moving towards you, for example, is emphasized more than the sound of teammates at your back. A zombie jumping off a building behind your operator is prioritized over the sounds of other things due to the imminent threat. So in theory, the game will prioritize what it believes to be the most important thing to your gameplay. I'd reckon more often than not, it's probably footsteps here at this, but it seems like they're trying to adequately immerse you while amplifying more important parts. So I'm very curious if this is going to be something that, again, not only creates some issues long-term, but also if this will be something the player can actually adjust with a sort of advanced audio mix in the settings. I kind of imagine not, but also who knows? I think that'd be pretty cool. The next thing they detailed was the HRTF support, which seems to be a part of a new enhanced headphone mode, which can create a personalized profile to take into players' physical attributes like the composition of your head, your ears, so even those minute differences can give you the optimal audio output, which seems really interesting in theory, but again, I'd have to see that actually in practice to know if it's good or bad. And finally, they wrapped everything up by talking about asymmetrical hearing compensation, which is new accessibility support for players with, say, asymmetrical hearing loss. Things like tinnitus is used as an example, where one ear can maybe be more sensitive than the other, which also allows you to adjust the intensity of frequencies in selected frequencies, not just overall, and based on whichever ear, which is honestly really cool in terms of accessibility features. So that is a lot of what was detailed, and technically speaking, looking at this blog, this is really, really cool stuff and really impressive to see the level of depth. But that's for me, who's like an audiophile nerd. But practically speaking, this could go a number of different ways because, yeah, I love audio. I love having really good headsets. I love having good audio settings, but that's not something that the vast majority of players will have access to or potentially care about. It's quite possible that some of these things just go completely unnoticed to a large number of players, very helpful to those that will need it and do interact with it, but I'm sure many players will without being connected to the positive outcomes of each of these systems at hand. Personally, they'll wonder what the point of elaborating on this tech would be. It's also quite possible that a lot of things like this just don't work as intended. When you introduce these large overhauls, sometimes there's going to be those problems that do persist. Modern Warfare 2 in 2022 was a perfect example of this. It introduced a lot of changes when it came to audio, and for the most part, the audio was abysmal across the shared experiences throughout the year. So either in the sense that the systems didn't accurately reflect the gameplay itself, like audio occlusion for months was terribly broken in Modern Warfare 2. But beyond that, as mentioned, because you had these increases to spatial audio, it was something that there was quite a bit of a camping problem in Modern Warfare 2 MP. Now, whether or not that's indicative of other systems in place like the mobility systems, TTK, and more, that certainly can contribute. But I do remember when we had the talk about audio updates back in 2022 pre-launch, that a large talking point of a lot of people in the comments was, oh my God, if all you hear are footsteps, no one's going to move. And that kind of proved to be a little right, which was also a little double-edged sword, because how do you create an immersive, nearly realistic approach to these systems while also encouraging or discouraging certain types of play? It's a problem that I don't know that we'll ever see perfectly fixed, and I kind of expect it to be again here in Black Ops 6, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, it's very possible that all of these bells and whistles, the majority of players may not even notice them, and that functional impacts on the game may be nominal. Personally speaking, I do greatly appreciate these kind of things. Again, as somebody that loves audio, as somebody that is kind of into the nerdy side of this kind of stuff, I enjoy it, but is this something that helps you out and your gameplay experiences upcoming? We'll have to wait and see. But that is what was detailed as of today. A pretty in-depth blog talking about the audio of Black Ops 6, but let me know your thoughts down below. If you guys like the sound of this kind of stuff, again, pun partially intended there, not so much, whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 6. We're gearing up for launch, getting real close here, so I'd love to have you in the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care, and peace.